Mod or modification is basically an altercation made to a video game by players and fans instead of the actual developers. These can range from simple visual changes to completely new mechanics or even entirely different game modes. Most of the time, mods are downloaded for free to enhance or personalize a game. At least, that's the technical definition I found online. But honestly, that explanation makes mods sound way more boring than they actually are, because in reality, mods usually mean one of three things: making a game look cooler, making a game completely broken, or turning a serious game into absolute chaos. And somehow, that's exactly why people love them, because sometimes mod fixes problems, sometimes they add new content, and honestly, that's gaming at its peak. So today, I'm going to show you the mods that I played this week. This first game tonight was actually my most recently modded playthrough, Elden Ring. I'll be honest, before this, I barely touched the game. Last time I played, I really didn't get very far. Mostly because every enemy in the game feels like they're specifically designed to ruin your confidence. But then I started thinking, what could possibly make Elden Ring better? Playing with friends. And somehow, that completely changed the experience for me. Instead of slowly suffering alone, now we were all suffering together, which honestly made the pain way more entertaining. And while playing, we all decided to start with completely fresh characters. I ended up choosing the Samurai class for my starter build, which worked out pretty well for me, mostly because if an enemy got too close, I could just wildly swing a sword and hope for the best. These are the same friends from the podcast episode we did a while back, and they basically became my Elden Ring tour guides. They were teaching me builds, showing me where important items were, explaining mechanics, and honestly trying to stop me from accidentally getting myself killed every 5 minutes. Didn't always work. Let's just say yours truly was the one who died the most, and thanks to the way the mod handles boss fights, if I died during one, I had to sit there and watch my friends continue fighting without me until the boss was defeated. So basically, I became an emotional support ghost. Meanwhile, they were out there fighting for their lives, and I'm just sitting here like, "Whoa, you can do it! Let's go! Come on, you can do it! Let's go! Let's go! Whoa!" Now, thankfully, that only applied to boss fights. Regular enemies were way more forgiving, so if somebody just got absolutely destroyed by a random enemy in the open world, which happened a lot, you will usually jump right back in pretty quickly. Honestly, that balance worked really well, because the boss fights still felt intense and punishing, but the game never became frustrating enough to completely stop the fun. Now, if you actually want to try this for yourself, the mod is called Seamless Co-op and is available through Nexus Mods. Now, to get started, follow this YouTube tutorial that you see on the screen from Chupacabra Tutorials to get set up and started. There are tons of games out there being completely transformed by players and fans every single day, but more recently, mods have started becoming something even bigger. Because now, some developers are actually integrating mods directly into their games. Meaning, instead of digging through folders, installing files, and praying you didn't actually break the game, everything is built right into the menu. That's probably the easiest mods have ever been to use. Now, that was one example of adding a mod into a game, but these days, there are actually games out there that let you download and install the mods without ever leaving the game itself. No digging through folders, no moving files around, and no actually breaking your game because you dropped a file into the wrong directory. Instead, more developers are embracing modding by building it directly into their games. That means players can browse, download, and install community-created content with just a few clicks. That's probably the easiest modding has ever been. So here are a few games that feature built-in developer-supported mod support. First up is Skyrim Special Edition. Skyrim has always had a huge modding community on PC. Players have spent years creating new weapons, quests, companions, graphic upgrades, and pretty much everything else you can imagine. But one of the biggest changes came in 2016 when Bethesda brought mod support directly to console. That meant Xbox and PlayStation players could finally start downloading and using mods without needing a gaming PC. Bethesda also released something called a Creation Kit, a set of tools that helps modders create content for the game. Using it, players can change scripts and create entirely new quests, add characters, build locations, and even create experiences that feel completely different from the original game. That's one of the reasons Skyrim is always around for these years. The community keeps creating new content long after most games have been forgotten. Next up is Arma Reforger. Now, unlike Skyrim, where mods might add new quests and completely change how the game looks, Arma Reforger's mods can completely change what the game you're actually playing. If you never played Arma before, it's a military sandbox focused on realism, teamwork, and tactical gameplay. But once you open up the workshop, things get interesting. Players can create entirely new maps, new vehicles, new weapons, new factions, and even entirely new game modes. In fact, some servers are so heavily modified that you barely resemble the original game. One server might be fighting a realistic military conflict, another might completely change the setting and objectives, and another might drop you right in the middle of the Clone Wars. And that's what makes Arma Reforger modding scene so impressive. You're not just downloading a new weapon or vehicle, sometimes you're downloading a new, entirely different experience. Next is Minecraft. You knew this one was coming. If there was a conversation about mods and Minecraft isn't mentioned somewhere, something's gone terribly wrong. Minecraft is one of the biggest modding communities in gaming. Over the years, players have created everything from simple quality of life improvements to entirely new dimensions, new creatures, new technology, and even complete RPG-style experiences. And some completely transform Minecraft into a game that barely resembles the blocky survival adventure most of us know. No matter how many times you've played it, there's always another mod waiting to completely change the experience. Whether you want more adventure, more building options, more realism, or absolute chaos, there's probably a mod for that. Next up is Blade and Sorcery. Now, unlike some of the other games we talked about tonight, Blade and Sorcery is first and foremost a sandbox. If you ever wanted to jump into a fantasy world and experiment with swords, bows, magic, and physics, this game basically hands you the keys and says, have fun. The game is already built around letting players create their own battles and experiences, but once you start adding mods, things get a little crazy. Want lightsabers? There's a mod for that. Want weapons from your favorite movies and video games? There's a mod for that. Want a new map, spells, enemies, and abilities? Yep, there's a mod for that too. That's what makes Blade and Sorcery such a great sandbox. Next up is Space Engineers. Now, unlike the other games we've talked about tonight, Space Engineers is less about fighting enemies, and more about building whatever your imagination can come up with. At its core, Space Engineer is a sandbox where players can build ships, space stations, vehicles, and entire industrial operations block by block. Some of the creations players have built are absolutely incredible, but thanks to the built-in workshop support, the fun doesn't stop with what the developers created. Players can download custom ships, new scenarios, entire worlds, and creations that would have taken hundreds of hours to build themselves. Want a massive battleship? There's probably a mod for that. Want a fully functional space station? There's probably a mod for that too. Want to accidentally download something that's way bigger than you expected and immediately crash into an asteroid? Well, that's also an option. And that's what makes Space Engineers such a great sandbox. The developers provide the tools, and the community keeps finding new ways to push them even further. Sometimes, creating things that feel more like science fiction movies than video game creations. Now, we talked about mods that change games, but what happens when a mod gets so popular that it stops being a mod altogether? It becomes its own game. What if I told you that the most played game on Steam originally started as a mod? That's right, Counter-Strike was created in 1999 originally as a Half-Life mod by Min Lee and Jess Cliff. The mod became so popular that Valve eventually hired the creators and turned it into an official game. Fast forward to today, and Counter-Strike has become one of the most successful competitive shooters ever made. Millions of players have jumped into matches over the years, and it all started by a mod made by fans. Next up is Team Fortress. Before there was ever payload, carts, hats, and countless hours spent arguing over which class was the best, Team Fortress actually started as a mod for Quake back in 1996. The mod introduced class-based gameplay, allowing players to choose different roles with unique weapons and abilities. At the same time, that was a pretty revolutionary idea for the multiplayer shooter. The mod became popular enough that to eventually evolve into Team Fortress Classic, and later, the game many players know as today as Team Fortress 2, and much like Counter-Strike, was started as a fan-made project, eventually became one of the gaming's most recognizable multiplayer franchises. Dota 2 is up next. Now this one didn't start as a traditional mod, instead, it began as a custom map called Defense of the Ancients, better known as Dota, for Warcraft 3 Reign of Chaos. The map took Warcraft 3's strategy gameplay and transformed it into something completely different. Instead of controlling entire armies, players controlled a single hero and worked together to destroy the opposing team's base. The idea became incredibly popular and helped lay the foundation for what we know as the MOBA genre. Eventually, Valve brought the concept back as Dota 2, turning a fan-made custom map into one of the biggest competitive games in the world. Next up is DayZ. Now, have you ever played a survival game where you're scavenging for supplies, managing hunger, and trying not to get eliminated by other players? You can thank DayZ for helping popularize that formula. DayZ originally started as a mod for Arma 2, created by Dean Hall in 2012. The mod dropped players into a zombie-infested world with very few resources and one simple goal: survive. But what made DayZ special wasn't the zombies, it was the players. Every encounter could turn into a friendship, a firefight, or a complete disaster. The mod became so popular that it eventually evolved into its own standalone game, and along the way, it helped inspire an entire wave of survival games that followed. Next up is the Stanley Parable. Now this one might be the strangest game on the list. Before it became an award-winning game, the Stanley Parable actually started life as a mod for Half-Life 2 in 2011. But instead of focusing on combat or action, it focused on something much different: choice, or at least the illusion of choice. Players take control of Stanley, an office worker who suddenly discovers that all of his co-workers have disappeared. Guided by the narrator, players are constantly presented with choices: follow the instructions or completely ignore them. And that's where the fun begins. The original mod became incredibly popular thanks to its humor, storytelling, and unique approach to players' choice. It eventually grew into a full standalone game and introduced countless players and one of the most memorable narrators in gaming. And believe it or not, there are a lot more than just these 5. Some became cult classics, some created new genres, and some helped shape the games we play today, which honestly goes to show just how powerful a modding community can be. So after all this, do mods actually matter? If you're asking me, I would say yes. Mods let players add new content to their favorite games and make them feel like new again. They can fix problems, improve quality of life, and sometimes even solve issues that players have been dealing with for years. But mods do more than just change games. As we've seen tonight, some mods have gone to become full games of their own. Games like Counter-Strike, Dota, DayZ, and many others all started as projects created by passionate fans. And in some cases, these projects have turned hobbies into careers. So whether you're adding new adventures, creating entirely new experiences, or inspiring the next generation of game developers, mods continue to have a huge impact on games, and honestly, I think that's pretty awesome. And that's going to do it for this week's episode of Press Play. Whether you're fixing bugs, creating entirely new adventures, or games becoming their own mods, have helped shape gaming in ways few people could have imagined. I can't wait to see what players come up with next, but now I wanted to hear from you. What's your favorite mod, or what's the weirdest mod you ever downloaded? Let me know. And if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to check out the previous episodes on Press Play on the KTO Now app and more on the YouTube channel. So thanks for watching. I'm Brian Clevenger, and until next time, keep playing, keep exploring. As always, press play.